fantastic week.
For some
we
of
had
us.
football again this week.
Yep. Every week's a blessing.
Every week is a blessing that we have football on.
And a terrible, terrible curse.
Yeah.
Yes.
Depending on who you are.
Right, absolutely.
It's not a good or a fun fantasy football season until you're yelling at your phone in the middle of the Sunday afternoon.
Amen.
Absolutely. It's not a good fantasy football season until you see your Denver Broncos win 11-10. And like the second time ever in NFL history, I think that score was.
It's not time to talk about ugly stuff yet, but we will talk about that.
We'll talk about that later. We will touch on the Broncos and some of their problems a little later here, but
you get to rage and feel sad.
An eventful weekend. I think there's still some crazy games. Some of our predictions from the last few weeks have come true. Some not so much.
Yep.
We'll get into that a little bit as well. But before we, get too far into anything here, let's talk a little bit about news and injuries because there's some big injury news this week.
A lot of cool stuff.
There are massive running back injuries this week, guys. So what do we think? Let's start off with Dalvin Cook here.
Dalvin Cook has a shoulder injury, which is something he's had last year as well. He dislocated his shoulder.
Ouch.
Good news is he can play through it. He did it last year. Problem is he can re-injure it pretty easily. So they're going to prepare a brace, and then he'll be able to play in that brace, which should help protect it a little bit. But re-injury is something very common. So right now he's day-to-day, so he's questionable play this week, which we'll talk about kind of the implications
Running
of that.
backs don't usually use their shoulder.
Not a lot.
Right? They're not often falling into piles of massive men shoulder first, right? That never happens.
I thought it was the softest position to play. Like
it's
fragile. That's what you would play.
That's a good point. That's a good point. No, so obviously it's tough, and the fact that he's played through it before is insane. And we'll see what he can do this time around because you never know too. He's a little older now.
Yeah.
So let's just pair that and lead that in. I do have Alexander Madison on my list of waiver wire pickups. He's owned in about 55% of Yahoo leagues here. Obviously, we want it for obvious reasons. Alexander Madison has a track record of doing really well in that Vikings offense when Dalvin Cook is out. What are you guys thinking about it, and what do you guys spend here?
If Madison is available, I would spend. I don't know. It's going to depend on how long Dalvin Cook is injured, kind of like what Eli talked about.
But we've got some decisions to make. So you're on the clock this week. You have to throw something at him, or you're not going to get him. What are you throwing?
15 to 20%.
I
think that's what I can stomach.
If you're in the this caveat, non-Dalvin Cook owner, I would do 15 to 20%. If you're the Dalvin Cook owner, if he's still out there, you go 35 to 40%. I would say.
I love that. I love the context. I completely agree. I would actually, as a non-Dalvin Cook owner, at this point in all my leagues, actually, 15% is probably the max that I would go. I'd probably look in 10 to 15. I don't want to overspend for a guy that. Dalvin Cook he's done it before where he misses 2-3 weeks and he's back right away. It's like, as much as that helps you for the next couple of weeks, I mean, it's not worth it in the end game. So I do have my
He does potential if it gets worse enough where you require surgery, or it could potentially happen. I don't think it's unlikely, but if you're bidding on him, putting on your bench, and you get a week out of him, and then you could store him for kind of that emergency handcuff.
Keep this in mind though. Dalvin Cook it's like you were saying, a re-injury injury. Has a high potential to re-injure. So if you do pay a little bit more of a premium for Madison, he might have a higher potential to pay off for you in the later weeks if Dalvin Cook gets injured. There's also the potential with the trade talks going on with him that have been going on since the beginning of the year.
But that's got to kind of be shut down right now for the Vikings, right? And
you think so, but I've heard that 12 teams were calling for him at one time.
Yeah, that's true. Originally.
All right, let's talk a little bit about DeAndre Swift. So Swift also got injured this week.
Yep.
What's going on there? Give us the breakdown.
So Swift, I can't remember what his was. I think it was a shoulder too, right?
It's a shoulder also.
His is actually going to be a little bit longer though, I think. From what I heard, and we'll get a quick update.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to be out at least for a couple weeks is what they're talking about, because this is a new injury for him.
Yeah.
And it's not a dislocation. I think it's a shoulder injury.
It's a sprain.
So what it sounds like, it's a sprain. But from what I understand about this is that they didn't explicitly say that he's going to be missing time, but they did say that it wouldn't hurt him to take 2 weeks off. It's not going to hurt them as a team, and it's not going to hurt him as a player.
Yeah, sure.
I would say that's a pretty big foot stomp right there that they're probably going to sit him for at least 1 to 2 weeks.
Well, it's not like they don't have an effective backup. Jamal Williams has been very good with the ball.
I do remember what Dan Campbell said now, actually, because he came on to press conference, he talked about it, and he actually put a timeline on it because they have 2 more weeks and then they have their bye week.
Yep.
So they talked about the potential of maybe him sitting 2 weeks.
So 3.
Or
3 with the bye.
3 with the bye. Yep.
Yep.
So potentially being without him for 3 weeks, which is a huge blow. DeAndre was, I think, a top 3 back.
Going into
just crushing it. So I'm sure we'll talk about, or unless we want to talk about it now, kind of the
Jamal Williams, Craig Reynolds over there as well, but I think this is mostly going to be the Jamal Williams show from the sounds of things.
Well, he was in for 45% of snaps, and that was DeAndre Swift in for 41%. So he outsnapped
Swift when he was even healthy.
When he was healthy. And then he's been averaging anywhere from like 30 to 35 over the last 2 weeks, which I would say is a pretty significant timeshare for, one of 3 guys who could possibly be on the field. So
he scored 2 touchdowns too after Swift left. So
he was getting goal line work.
Anyway. They trust him. You can see that in Hard Knocks. He's going to get a lot of work. He has the history of getting work too when Aaron Jones was out.
And he was pretty successul when that would happen too.
So put your money where your mouth is, boys.
So this is a little bit long. You kind of a little more definitive of the time frame. Again, we don't know 100% for sure, but it does sound like at least 2 weeks of usable fantasy, where Alexander Madison kind of seems like a 1 week. So I would still go about the same range though, like 20%, and then if I'm the Swift owner, I would definitely go 35, 40.
I'd say maybe 25 if I wasn't a Swift owner. I agree with your Swift owner range, but really for the sheer reason of he is sometimes playable outside of just Swift being injured. If you have a bye week or anything like that you need somebody to fill, he's a good spot to put in there.
Yeah, the goal line work really makes me want him, even if Swift is in as potential backup. You kind of get that Kareem Hunt type situation. Tony Pollard.
The offenses look good too, so that's something to consider too. They've been scoring a lot of points.
A lot of money spent on that side of the ball for them. And they've been good. I'd say I would go as a non-owner 15 to 20 here, but you kind of almost have to, in my opinion, pick or choose. I wouldn't want to get them both, to be honest, between him and Madison.
So caveat with these two, I think these are higher on percentages as far as especially if we checked Yahoo. I think Madison's 55%, Jamal is 60%. So this is going to be, if they are out there, they're our top waiver wire ads, most likely, but they probably are not. So
they're probably both not available in the league, unless you're in a 10-man league or something. But yeah, absolutely.
On the other side of other injuries, we also have David Montgomery.
David, my opportunity.
And that's a pretty, I would say that would be maybe the more notable one to talk about, because Khalil Herbert, he went off.
Yes.
He went off.
He did. He had a huge game. Looks great.
He did.
And it has looked great even when he's been touching the ball in a little bit of a timeshare with David Montgomery anyway.
Last year he looked really good when David Montgomery had some time off. The guy has got experience working with that offense. He's a known factor at this point.
Yeah, most definitely. So, let's get into that. We all kind of know Khalil Herbert. What's the deal with David Montgomery? Someone want to take me through the actual injury there?
He was taken out mid-game, something about a knee or an ankle.
I don't think we have any more information actually at this point, other than he's being evaluated
head coach Matt Eberflus described it as day-to-day and a positive development, which he was deemed doubtful after he was deemed doubtful returning to the game. So basically, he's day-to-day. He's likely going to come back in. I think this is another situation though where there's no reason to rush him back. Because you have a very serviceable, very good backup.
I don't think if he's able to play, they're going to play him though. I think this is what you're thinking. But I think they have a track record. David Montgomery looked really good when he was actually out there. I think if he's ready to go, they're going to play him, and I think they're going to go right back to the same snap percentage of, I think it's 60 to 20 or 70 to 30, something like that, somewhere in that range. So. This is a really risky one. I think it has a high upside. I think that's why we talked about him a couple times the last few weeks, that he's definitely a really high handcuff to own. He has the talent there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's even hard to put a budget on it for me at this point until we get more information. So if it comes out that it's going to be a few week injury where he's going to be out, then I think we go to that same range, 25%, 20% to have him.
Sure.
But if he's going to be back right away, or if he has a chance to play, I mean, 10-15% maybe is probably where I go.
I think I would even argue like it might be something worth stashing in this case and maybe not anticipating playing, because it sounds like David Montgomery, with the fact that they're saying day to day, it sounds more hopeful that they'll be back in. I kind of agree with Eli.
Yep.
And sometimes these injuries are played longer, even if they do seem day to day at first.
Yeah.
But
that,
I think if you really need to replace a running back, I wouldn't go very.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go very hard.
And this is Monday night, so you still have
Yeah.
Tuesday information after this comes out. So you can kind of be able to take a look and see. Hopefully some updates before waivers run, because they have to make that decision.
I will say that this looks like Khalil Herbert looks like, from what I'm seeing, he's so far the big grab on the waiver wires. Like, not a lot of people making moves on Alexander Madison or Jamal Williams, but everybody's going after
I would
Khalil
agree
Herbert.
because he's actually just below 50% rostered, so he's more likely to be out there. To rank, because I feel like there's some others we're going to talk about, but just rank those three because those are the big ones.
Yeah.
Well, how would you rank those based off the information we have right now? How would you prioritize those running backs?
Like, let's say we're the Magic League that has all three of them on the waiver wire.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Williams, Madison, Herbert.
Okay.
I would actually go Madison, Williams, Herbert. I'd put Herbert last, but I think I'd go for Madison first.
Yeah, I think based off the information, since we don't know a lot about Herbert, I do think he's really talented. He would be my top if I felt like it was guaranteed to cut a couple weeks. But as of right now, I'd have to go. Williams, because we know he's got longer time. Madison, and then Herbert. If it changes though, if it comes out where David Montgomery's gonna be out 2-3 weeks, I honestly would flip that. I'd put Herbert at the top.
Interesting. Because in my mind, I'm actually kind of placing it through the same thing as you are with, like, I think Alexander Madison's going to get more play time.
I think Alexander Madison is better than Williams.
Yeah.
I do think he's more talented.
I just think he's going to get more play time. Dalvin Cook doesn't spend one game out.
If you need 1 week,
if
you need 1 week, most points, I think it's going to be Madison based off of what we know right now.
Absolutely.
But
Okay, guys, we have a new game to introduce to the fans out here. This game is going to be called Do They Play Next Week? Let's start it off with T. Higgins. Does he play next week, guys?
I feel bad laughing at this one, but that dude just cannot catch a
Oh my
break.
gosh.
It's like his head is a magnet for other people's helmets.
I feel like there's like a text message group with a lot of the NFL defensive players. Like, like attack T. Higgins at all costs. Like,
we're gonna sack him until whoever gets him.
They're teeing off on him.
Yeah,
yes. It's like there's
I'll
a bounty.
accept it.
Whoever gives him the concussion that takes him out of the game is actually going to get the prize money.
Yeah.
Sean Payton's like hates it for some reason.
He's the one who's running it.
So but will he play next week?
Man, yes.
I think
they're going to keep pushing it.
I think he will.
I'm actually going to go no.
Okay.
2 concussion close calls in a row means you got to sit one out, in my opinion.
You're hopeful.
Yeah. Keenan Allen, will he play next week?
Yeah, so I just saw this actually. He's trending. He's practiced, I think, today actually, so he's probably going to play.
I agree. I think he's going to play. I think their intent was to put him out for 2, and I think they set the expectations early. They're going to bring him in on number 3.
Makes sense. Justin Herbert, will he play next week?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
He already played.
He already played. And it's only getting better from here.
Yeah.
Is it only getting better from here?
Yeah.
He took some big shots in the last game.
I mean, as long as it didn't tear
I think your
anything, he's all good.
cartilage grows back, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
It
Not
does.
a scientist.
Yes. Hunter Renfrow, will he play next week?
No. I don't think so.
I don't know enough about this one. I think he will play though. From what I thought,
He was questionable going into the week and then
But it
doubtful
wasn't-
towards the end.
it
And
was-
then he
yeah,
I don't think they're going to rush him back.
he had a chance to play if close, and he got doubtful. Yeah, I think he's gonna play this week.
Dak Prescott is rumored to be talking about him
No.
next
No.
week return.
No,
He's not
Cowboys,
gonna play.
that's some
No.
Cowboys fandom
Yeah,
rumors
exactly.
going around. You
Put
know
that
how
in
they
there.
are.
I think he might play next
I
week.
don't think he's
No.
going to play next week. You
He
sound like a
shouldn't.
Cowboys
He
fan.
shouldn't.
He shouldn't,
He
but I think he
should
might.
not.
What do you think about Cooper Rush?
Michael Thomas, will he play next week?
I think he'll play.
Yeah, I think it's
Jarvis Landry, will he play next week?
No.
I don't think so.
That was a flip a coin for me. I don't know if you would.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Dalton Schultz.
I don't think so.
I don't know because I'm kind of on the other side. I think it was a relatively minor injury.
He was
that just
questionable
kinda
all
popped
week
up.
this week, and then it was a decision this morning that they weren't going to play him.
They said earlier today that it was doubtful and that it was still going to be a game time, but it was considered doubtful, and then they changed it at the last minute and said, yeah, no, he's definitely not playing. So
Yep, for sure.
I don't know what's going on with him.
Cool. And then actually one more, Michael Gallup. Will he finally make his 2022 NFL debut?
He was supposed to play this week. I think he's going to play next week.
They're going to bring him and Dak out together, and they're going to.
Well, he did the Monday night game, so I guess it is a little shorter week to Sunday because they're missing a day. But I think he'll still play. So
I'm hoping he'll play.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the short week doesn't matter too much if you don't play. So
No.
Get them some help out there.
Get all the help they can get.
Let's talk about some waiver wire pickups here, guys. We'll finish off with the running backs. We kind of touched on these just with the injury report anyway. But I can't recommend enough that you take a look at picking up J.D. McKissick. He's only owned in 26% of leagues, but if you're playing full point PPR, this is one of those players that is not going to do anything crazy sexy for you, but he's averaging about 5 targets a game.
Yep.
He's going to be getting these cheap little dump off passes, little slot roll work, things like that to do just enough to make it so if you have a bye week, if you have an injury, like he can fill in, get you 10 points, and you call it a day.
So here's my question: would you go pretty heavily after him with the consideration that Brian Robinson is coming back, possibly in Week 5?
No, this is one that if I'm bidding on him, I'm bidding 1 to 2%. I'm going to go low, but I do expect him he's only 26% taken, so he's going to be available in most leagues. Even if you wait through the waiver wires this weekend, go snake him for cheap, put him on your roster. He's not going to win you a whole league, but he'll win you a week when you have that bye or you have that other problem and injuries, especially with all the running back injuries. If you have Dalvin Cook, DeAndre Swift, David Montgomery, and you need somebody to fill in for the next couple weeks, then I might be looking at 5 to 10% just to make sure I snag him quick and go, okay, look, I just need someone to get me 10 points.
Okay.
And this is PPR specific,
Yeah.
which is worth noting as well. Not everyone plays PPR, but
Okay.
since it is a standard, I think it's worth taking a look at.
Cool. I like that. I like that explanation.
Yep. I think that's good. I think he, like you said, he has enough to get you by. I think is the best way to describe him. So
Absolutely.
excellent. I'm going to talk about Jalen Warren. Watching him. I know he's the Najee Harris backup, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Najee has not looked great. Still dealing with the injury. He's been ineffective. Jalen Warren started to actually take some of the work away from Najee as well. Last week he had 4 rushes for 30 yards, 1 target, 1 catch. He's only owned in 9% of leagues. So the biggest thing here, he's a handcuff. You're not going to start him right away, but he's a great stash because if Najee goes down, they typically only rely on one running back anyways. And the few plays that he had, he broke off a 20-yard run. He looked pretty explosive.
Well, he played less snaps this week than he played a smaller snap percentage this week than he did for the last 2 weeks.
Gotcha.
But it looks like they're trusting him to get him more onto those big plays to maybe take some of the pressure off of Najee. So I definitely agree with you saying pick up the stash.
And if Najee's injury is nagging, right, and the players don't get better when they're hurt like that, he's going to continuously get worse.
Yep.
And Warren could be a hero for you. So definitely worth taking a look at, especially if you have one of our drop candidates that we'll get to in a little bit here. Certainly something to look at. Let's talk about wide receivers, boys. Who do you like this week in Dakota? Let's start with you.
Okay, I got a weird one. I got Mac Hollins, kind of
Who?
Yeah, relatively unknown guy. Came out, played because Hunter Renfrow was out.
Yep.
And Devontae Adams had a game, of course, but he had a pretty decent game. I think he went 10 targets, 8 receptions, 158 yards, and this dude
He's 18 targets in the last 2 games.
Yeah.
Both of which without Hunter Renfrow, but that's worth noting. 18 targets is nothing to sneeze at.
It really is not.
Especially in an offense that has Devontae Adams and Darren Waller.
And he's getting red zone looks. He got his first touchdown this week.
He looked good.
He looked good.
Yeah. I think he's a great pickup in stash.
He's only owned in 2% of leagues. I think that's a
What would you spend?
2 to 5, 3, maybe 2 to 3% at most. I'm not too worried about getting him.
The other thing is when someone's number is that low, a lot of times I'll just wait. You wait till he clears waivers on Wednesday and go get him for free or put a no bid in.
If I can go into my next one,
sure.
Greg Dortch.
Greg Dortch. And I will say this is a guy that I might go a little bit more heavy on just because he is getting consistent looks throughout the last few weeks. Yep. He didn't have a touchdown, but he's getting the yards, he's getting the targets from Kyler Murray. He's competing with Hollywood Brown, who looks amazing. It's very clear that the Cardinals offense wants to throw. I would maybe go 5 to 10% on him. I think this might be one of the last weeks that anybody's able to get him, so it might be worth, if you need a receiver, go out and put a little more on him. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good pickup, especially since they're constantly coming from behind because they have terrible starts.
Well, but the only problem that I see with it is DeAndre Hopkins, and if they're coming
and Rondale Moore.
Yeah,
he's coming back too.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's been, even if Rondale Moore's in, I think that there's a high potential that they'll keep playing this guy. He's young. He definitely shows that he can take the pressure.
Yeah.
It's a good stash.
Yeah.
All right, Eli, who do you got for us here?
So I got Zay Jones. So he has been kind of in the candidates of being kind of an undercover waiver wire pickup even for last week. This week he kind of had his explosion week. 11 targets, 10 receptions for 85 yards. He is the number 2 wide receiver in the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Jaguars have actually looked, dare I say, good.
Serviceable.
Yeah, like
I don't even know if serviceable is the word.
I think good's the description that we have to use at this
smack
point.
on the Chargers,
when you put the smack on the Chargers like that, it's pretty legit.
And the Colts.
So he's out there all the time. They look good. He's getting the targets. He's heavily involved. Last week he even had 9 targets, so it's consistent for the last few weeks.
Yep.
And his snap percentage is really high up there. So I don't think he's going to get 80 or 10 receptions, 85 yards, but I think he's going to be a solid wide receiver 3 to wide receiver 2. So if you need that on your team, I think it's a great pickup this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then who else you got for us?
Okay, you can jump on my other one.
Yeah.
This one is a good one this week. He was kind of hyped up in the preseason. Everybody loved him. But now he kind of fell in kind of the mix with all the other wide receivers in there. So Romeo Doubs for the Packers. He kind of fell behind Sammy Watkins and Christian Watson and Randall Cobb. Got to mix everything. And then
he got lost in the noise right after the draft.
And then this week we had a lot of injuries. Sammy Watkins has got put on IR. He's been out for 2 to 3 weeks.
Christian Watson's out.
Christian Watson was out this last week. And Randall Cobb actually was a game time decision this week. He did play, but Alan Lazard was back. But Romeo Doubs stood out the most during this game based off the eye test. Seemed like he's involved early. He was involved often. He caught the touchdown. So he had 8 targets, 8 receptions for 71 yards and a touchdown. And I think the hype in this case, rookie wide receiver, takes some time to get involved. But my biggest thing why I think this is one that you might want to go after is because you start to build trust with Aaron Rodgers, and that can take off pretty quickly.
Absolutely. You want Aaron Rodgers as top wide receivers.
Yeah.
That's why there was so much buzz and hype around Christian Watson this offseason. But it really has looked like Romeo Doubs has done a better job filling that role and was really a great prospect coming in that would have been much higher drafted had he not been hurt. And
so I think it is a little bit more risky because you have more people coming back. Samuel will be back. Christian Watson will be back. He's a highly drafted rookie, so he will be involved. But based off of his performance and how he looked on the field, I'm willing to go a little bit higher for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'd say 5 to 7% maybe if you want to reach out for him.
Sure. Absolutely. So my guys here are going to be, I've got George Pickens on here, who I was sort of kind of out on as of last week, but the reason I was out was not talent or offense or anything like that. It was just that he wasn't getting the targets. He was clearly the 3rd wide receiver in the offense. He comes out this week, has 7 targets, only goes 3 for 39 off of those.
But it's an amazing.
The catch itself broke the internet. It was another OBJ. If it was in the end zone, it would have been an OBJ catch.
Absolutely. I mean, the talent is clearly there. He's insanely, he's insanely great with his hands. He has incredible ball skills. He ran a 4.42, so this is a guy that can take the top off the defense if he needs to as well. 6'3", he's got some size. He's got the full package of 4 wide receiver. If it wasn't for some off-field issues, he definitely would have been a first-round pick.
He likes to fight.
He's spicy even still in the NFL.
He's spicy.
He is.
And
can bite him in the butt pretty quick.
Absolutely. This is one of the things. It's like, look, don't overspend here. I'm still only looking 2, 3, 4% on the waiver wire as of this week. We don't know what's going to happen if this was a fluke week or if this is the trend to come. But if it is the trend to come, as we always say here, pick him up the week before, not the week after, guys. If he has another 7, 8 targets next week, you can bet he's not going 3 for 39 on those. Again, it won't continue in that direction. So definitely,
I think it's a great stash. The only caveat I put in there is that it's Mitchell Trubisky. That makes it
for now.
Kenny Pickett.
For now.
Kenny Pickett. Makes
for
it
now.
so hard because he's got the snaps. He's starting to get a little bit of targets, but obviously the targets are not.
Hey, it's okay.
Targets.
Richard Sherman said when they did the broadcast that Mike Tomlin needs to put Kenny Pickett in.
Oh, there you go.
And I think if Richard Sherman's saying it, I think everybody's
thinking
it.
Everybody's listening.
It's time.
That's funny.
So one of these days, in the near future, Michael Gallup will gallop onto the field.
One of these days.
One of these days. It wasn't this week.
Weird that he's a Cowboy and said that.
Well, yeah, right. And he's a Cowboy. Perfect. It wasn't this week. It wasn't today against the Giants. But there was a lot of talk of he's going to be back. If you look at the work that Noah Brown has been getting, I do think a lot of that will go over to Gallup when he comes back in, who is a very talented wide receiver who's looked very efficient. And that's one of the reasons they were willing to get rid of Amari Cooper is that they really believe in Michael Gallup.
They let a few wide receivers go too. What was his name? One went to Miami that was really good too, and then they traded Amari Cooper.
Yes, Cedric
Wilson. Yeah.
Went to Miami as well. Yeah, so because they believe in this kid, and he's young. He has done well with the opportunities presented to him, and he's about to get more opportunities when he does come back. Mm-hmm. So don't get him after he comes back and he has 10 targets. Pick him up now.
When he comes back, he's going to come back. Like he'll be on the field. He'll get plenty of snaps. I wouldn't expect anything different.
We're not going to spend a lot of time on these couple of wide receiver quick hitters and anything you guys want to mention. I'll just throw out the rookies out there. We've seen rookies blow up already. It's probably too late for Chris Olave, but I just checked to see if he's out there because if he is, he had his blow up week this week.
Yeah,
he's at 65%, so he's still possible. That's why he's a quick hitter. Treylon Burks is still out there. His snap percentage did go up to the 90%. I know he didn't have a great week this week, but they don't have a lot of pass catchers out there in Tennessee, and they're going to need him. So I would pick him up if he's still out there and have a chance to get him. Yeah. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And on Olave, I think it's definitely the one out of those two that I prefer.
Yeah, if he's available, he'd probably
be
the number one.
You just look at what they gave up to get him. People thought they were trading up for a quarterback. They traded so many draft picks away to get Chris Olave. They love this kid. They did it for a reason. They're going to throw him the ball. He I think has 22 targets in the last 2 games. I think he had 10 and 12.
They're just going to let James Winston throw the ball, whether it's an interception or a touchdown.
Somebody tweeted on Twitter, I forget who it was, but he's like, I should have known that Jameis would just do those shit balls and just throw it as far as he can to Chris Olave.
I love there was one that was like, I don't know, Olave's down there somewhere.
Just
like chugging.
We'll
did he get LASIK in the offseason? Apparently didn't do anything.
Just throwing it up.
All right, so let's quickly go through our streamers here, guys. Who is available for a quarterback streamer that you can snag if you are streaming quarterbacks?
Yeah, so this has to be under 50%. It's got to be available to try to stream. I'll go through mine real quick since we just were talking about him. I chose Jameis Winston. He has Minnesota this week. Minnesota did get destroyed by Jalen Hurts. I know he runs the ball too, but through the air they got destroyed as well. So I think it's going to be a good week. He has great weapons. I think they're going to be healthy too. We talked about them. I think Michael Thomas is going to be there. Olave is breaking out. So again, those shit balls or those balls he throws downfield, Chris Olave can go get those, and he only takes a couple of those to make some good plays.
Yeah, Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry plan to be back, and so that's going to be very nice for
very good weapons.
I'll take Jared Goff against Seattle. I think that both of these teams have showed some struggles on defense, and when that happens in what to me projects to be a fairly close game. You can get into a shootout pretty quick. You saw that with Seattle and Atlanta this week, although Atlanta's defense is absolutely atrocious. And Seattle's is not that bad. But Goff has lots of weapons. It should be a close game, which will keep him throwing throughout the entirety of the game, which is really what I'm looking for as well on a streamer. So yeah, go get Jared Goff.
Perfect.
I broke the rules on this one. It was supposed to be under 50%. I chose somebody who was over 50%, but I figure it's worth mentioning. Geno Smith, man, same reason that you pretty much chose Seattle. It's going to be a shootout. Detroit does not like to play defense for some reason, especially when they're passing the ball.
Yep.
Geno Smith has proven in the last 2 weeks that, or the last 3 weeks, he's really pushing to hit DK Metcalf and get Tyler Lockett and DK involved.
Yeah.
He likes Will Dissly. He's got no fans, so
I think Tyler Lockett's got a big game.
I think
Because their cornerback, I forget, he's a young player, Detroit's cornerback. I'll miss the name of him.
The guy from Ohio State.
He just locked down Justin Jefferson. And the week before, I forget who he played, but he locked him down too.
Thielen
So he'll probably be on DK
Yep.
Metcalf. So I would say Tyler Lockett's going to probably have
Yeah, I wouldn't be
big game.
surprised. Well, the thing is they've got so many guys on that team that if you leave them open, it can be a huge problem.
Yeah,
You really
for
want to leave Tyler Lockett open.
No, Tyler Lockett is so quick and so good. So I think I agree with that. The stream was great. Okuda. He locked down.
Jeffrey Okuda was a very high.
Justin Jefferson had
draft pick.
3 catches for 22 yards.
He did.
A bunch of targets.
Essentially irrelevant.
Yep, and he missed his rookie season, so this really is kind of where he's
I
coming to his
forget who
own.
he played the week before that, but they locked him down too. This is a trend that's happening. So keep an eye out for him because
Didn't they play?
those type of quarterbacks can affect fantasy matches pretty quickly if they
Absolutely. And that gives a great look for, as you mentioned, Tyler Lockett. So
Yep.
if you have Lockett, it's a great week to start him.
Load him up.
And that game kind of leads into my tight
Go
end
ahead.
streamer here, so I'll take over if that's all right. And that's Will Dissly. The Detroit Lions defense it's other than Jeff Okuda, rather atrocious. And so you want to pick on where you can. As Dakota mentioned, Geno has been targeting Dissly a lot. He's kind of on the up and up just in general, so I'll take a shot and stream him. If your tight end situation is even kind of bad, it might be worth taking a look at Dissly here.
I completely agree. He's looked really good. I think it's a great stream. I can't believe that how far Noah Fant's fallen. We don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but that's crazy that we're suggesting.
Was it the 17th overall pick?
Yeah,
And
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think it was the right offense for him. I think that it was just they were trying to get extra money for Russell Wilson. I don't think that Seattle ever really had any real intent to play him. This has always kind of been the dude.
He's been good. He's always been good. You realize that he had the last 2 or 3 years. He tore his Achilles.
Mm-hmm.
He tore his another really big tendon. There's one that's really hard to come back from too. But he had 2 season-ending injuries, and now that should not come back from, and now he's back up as a streamer.
And when he does play and he's not injured, he's a monster.
He is a monster.
Yeah.
So it's a great stream. I want to throw that on. It's crazy that Noah Fant is irrelevant, which is nuts.
Yes, it's wild.
You want?
Oh, for me, I got a good one.
I like this one actually.
Tyler Conklin, man. Tyler Conklin
Always ignored, but always produces.
He produces. Why am I blanking on his name? Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco wants to throw the ball
a lot.
Well, they have to. Let's be honest. They don't want to throw the ball a lot. They have to throw the ball a lot. They're down every game for reasons. Mostly the fact that the Jets.
Yeah.
And so they're going to be down and they're going to throw the ball a lot. And guess what? When you have to cover Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore deep, a nice little dump off pass to the Conklin tends to be wide open. So.
And I mean, he has been. He's playing. The least that he played was on Sunday, 79% of snaps. The least targets is 7 in a game, so he's at least getting the looks from Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
If I can guarantee you that your tight end gets 7 targets every game for the rest of the season, I think we're all taking that tight end.
Absolutely.
So
I agree with you. I think it's going to be worthwhile to play him. He definitely has a high potential to perform over his projection.
Yep, absolutely. People just don't want that name in their lineup, but when he's producing, why not put him in there?
Why not?
It's just you got to get over the name.
It doesn't hurt you.
No.
He's only.
No. And you're putting somebody else in that has a name that gets you 0 points.
He's rostered 6%.
Yeah. So it's ridiculous.
I mean, he's available in every
He should be
league.
at 30-40% roster.
He should.
So
Yep.
I love that one. I'm going to talk about David Njoku just because I am happy / upset. I'm kind of right, kind of not. So he was one of my plant the flag guys this year, as you guys know, and I was all in on him. And then he had 2 horrendous weeks. He had, I think, 0 points the first week. I think about 4 or 5 points the second week.
It was abysmal.
So of course, me looking at can't have that on my tight end. I've dropped him multiple different places. So I'm very, very sad right now. But doesn't mean I can't suggest you guys pick him up. He has a talent. I've talked about this before. Yes, it's been a few years. They didn't utilize him correctly. They had multiple tight ends that they used. He's only owned 51% of leagues right now. He had 9 receptions for 89 yards and a touchdown last week. The things that behind the scenes that really need to pay attention to, even the weeks he ate where it's bad, he had an 89% snap rate, 94% snap rate, and an 89% snap rate this week. He's on the field at all times. He just wasn't looking for him for some reason. Now Jacoby is looking for him. It's obvious. He's going to be involved. They paid him a huge contract. He's going to be a low-end tight end one for the rest of the season. I'm going to put it out there right now. He's one of my guys. So for me, he's a top pickup this week because I think he's not only a streamer, but you can continue to play him for the rest of the season.
I'm a hater, and I don't think that he's going to do it. And I'll tell you, because every year I have been with you where he has that game where he underperforms. He does this, and then he has one good game, and you're like, it's time for Njoku.
I agree
and
with
then
you.
he just goes back to being completely irrelevant.
I agree with
after
you.
that.
He's done that in the past, but when he's done that, it's been off of like three targets and 3 catches for 85 yards and a touchdown, where he breaks it out because he's athletic. This is different. This is volume, and this is continuous volume throughout the whole game. If you watch that game, he was the number one target.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of other talent on that team right now. It's Amari Cooper and it's Javen Njoku, the pass catchers. You have Donald Peoples-Jones Jr.
They have Bell.
Law
Bell
firm
is just chilling in
guy
there.
over there. So other than that, though, you have the running backs and you have those 2 targets. So for me, again, I completely understand where you're coming from. But he is my guy, or my plant guy, and I'm going hard after him this week. So.
Well, if he doesn't break out, I think that we should throw him in the breakout or get out league.
Yeah, you probably should.
5 years breaking out constantly doesn't fancy to break out.
On to our next segment here. We have the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, let's start with the good. Let's give this a
Can I just jump in since I kind of coordinates with?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
So by good, I just wanted to talk and do a shout out to Amari Cooper. He's been disrespected, I think, going into this year.
Why are you looking at me?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying I disrespected him.
I said he was going to be good.
I disrespected him too. I didn't draft him anywhere, but we should have known. He's talented. He's a great route runner. He always has been. He's dealt with injuries. He's by far the number one target. Again, they don't have anybody else. It's David Njoku and Amari Cooper. So he had back-to-back 100-yard games the last two weeks. He's looked great after the catch, before the catch, getting open. And dare I say, Jacoby actually looks like a quarterback. I don't know.
You need to relax.
I know.
You need to relax a
He
little
did.
bit.
Last Thursday, he looked good.
He looks like a quarterback who's never asked for a happy ending after a massage.
Yeah,
which is,
Well, that automatically makes him better than Deshaun
So,
Watson.
That's
true,
good.
exactly.
Good job,
Steps
Cleveland, on that
It's
one.
automatic,
One for two.
Yeah. You also didn't pay him $200 million, but that's a whole different story.
Yeah, we don't get into that.
But I just want to put it out there. I just want to give him a little pat on the butt because he's top wide receiver right now. He's killing it.
He's great.
So, and nobody wanted him. I can speak
He
with everybody else.
Round pick, man.
Every league I was in, he just kept falling. So
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think most of the dudes that we're going to talk about today are guys that nobody really wanted.
Yeah.
That are just blowing up.
And speaking of, dirty things happening, Hollywood is a terrible place filled with terrible people. But Hollywood Brown is a heck of a wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals. He had a massive game.
He did.
14 targets.
He had the game that everybody wanted him to have when he showed up in Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, finally kind of connecting.
Yeah.
Him and Kyler Murray were on the same page a lot of the game, which you couldn't say for a lot of other people on that team except for him and Greg Dortch. And they always take forever to get going, it seemed. But they did almost come on a little earlier. I know they were still down early, but in this game, they did seem to kind of get their stuff together a little bit earlier in the game, and then they fell back apart again. But
it's the Cardinals' way.
but yeah, I mean, especially in games where, once again, this defense is not great.
No, it's really not. JJ Watt was
really
getting very angry on the field. I remember watching parts of that game and just.
I mean, you got some aging pieces. You got the draft picks that are really kind of not working out the way that they anticipated with Isaiah Simmons and some of those guys who still are good but are not the game-changing players they had hoped that they were. And so their defense has been struggling, which means that they throw the ball all the time. Kyler Murray is going to run around, as Twitter and you guys like to say, is like a toddler who stole his mom's phone.
Angry toddler, yeah.
I've seen that happen.
It's like a toddler that has something in their mouth and you try to get it out.
What is that?
They're sprinting around. It's like, it's go.
Yeah.
Where'd it go?
Yeah.
So
quick.
Absolutely. And they don't throw the ball down the field too. Just play making wide receiver. So shout outs to Hollywood.
That's a really good shout out. He had 17 targets. I mean, that's just absolutely insane. So that's it.
Oh yeah, so there's 17 targets, 14 catches.
Yes.
Yeah.
14 catches for 140.
Which is not a great
still,
yards per target, but
it's almost 10 yards.
That's
per
10
target.
yards per target.
That's not bad.
That's pretty good.
per reception.
10 yards per reception.
Yeah, I said per target.
It's like 8
it's
yards,
17
something
targets
yards
for
per target.
40 yards. It's
It's like 8 yards per target.
Yeah.
That's not good. That's not good. Great.
We're gonna have to agree to
We're
disagree
gonna
on
have to
something
agree.
like that.
What is the league average? We'll have to look this up
Yeah.
later. But yes.
Hollywood Brown. All right, I like that. I have Ramondre Stevenson, who, I mean, he's the guy that we were kind of expecting him to be. Heard a lot of hype going into the coming out of the off season, going into the main season, saying that this is going to be their guy. But he's been taking a backseat to Damian Harris. It looked like he finally pulled ahead, and he's finally getting his time on the field.
Yeah.
It looked like he was out there. He outsnapped Damian Harris. He was out there for 62%. Same as last week, but he had a little more involvement, a few more attempts, and it looks like they're getting him involved in the passing game. He's got 5 targets for 4 receptions.
He's another hype guy in the offseason for a good reason, and he's finally getting the work.
So I would say I 100% agree with this. I actually had him in my docket too. Dakota had him first. But yeah, the biggest thing that he has is that Ty Montgomery's out right now.
Yep.
And so he's taking over that third down role, and he's out there a lot, and they played from behind a lot. So he's running a lot of routes as a running back, and he's getting those really valuable.
And he's got hands too.
Yep.
I mean, that's something that.
Yep. And he's
really
very shifty.
has.
So I think Damian Harris will still be involved, and I think it caps his overall upside, but I think he's going to be a really solid running back.
I agree. I think he's going to keep that higher snap.
But I agree. It's a really great, because I think it's a great call out too, not to get stuck, but like he didn't have great first 2 weeks, so it's a great call out to how well he did this.
Something that we were even talking about possibly dropping in some leagues, that he was a
the first
top
week he
candidate.
only had like 6 or 7 points first week.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Let's get into the bad here. I'm going to talk about, unfortunately.
I think we should save yours to the end because we got a lot to say about yours.
All right.
Give it a little more time.
So you want to go ahead then?
I can go real quick. My bad is DeAndre Swift, and for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
I love DeAndre Swift, but it definitely doesn't look good
Tier.
for his fantasy output. Yeah, I completely understand it though. He's young. He's going to be their dude that they want to keep in, so they're definitely going to baby him a little bit, which I'm fine with. I'm definitely not trying to rush him back out on the field. But
it's going to hurt while he's gone.
It's just bad.
he was just he looks so good.
He does,
He
man. He can do everything. He can do everything.
So explosive, for sure. My bad is, and this is not on the player, this is not on the talent that is, Austin Eckler, who is actually won probably people a lot of leagues last year for the amount of fantasy points he put up. Big red flags going off, at least for a lot of people, because he has not scored a touchdown yet. He has this week he only had 4 carries for 5 yards.
Yep.
Pretty bad. The good news is he's still involved in the passing game. He has 8 targets, and they've been playing behind, and he will be involved in that. So that's always going to be guaranteed in there. But he only has a 56% snap rate. He's not getting the carries. Sony Michel's getting carries. They're mixing in Joshua Kelly. He's not getting the goal line work. And last year, he had 17 touchdowns. He doesn't have a touchdown yet. You drafted him in the first round in the top 10 picks, probably, most likely. You are not getting that payoff right now, and people are panicking in the streets. And honestly, I think they have the right to panic because I don't think it's going to change.
Absolutely.
You know, it can be said that he's an aging running back. I mean, he's really getting to that where their value begins to go down. He's been productive so far, like you're saying. There's been a couple years that he's probably won people a few, like some of their leagues, but They're probably not really in a big hurry to burn him out.
No.
And that's
They keep him.
it's understandable.
Yeah, I think they purposely brought in Sonny Michel. They said they've been looking for somebody to take some of the load off of him just because of the smaller body. I think people just lucked out last year that he got all the red zone carries and got the touchdowns.
I mean, the dude's got hands like nobody else.
Yeah.
He's probably one of the best receiving running
And quite
backs.
frankly, with Herbert, even if he plays through it, I mean, his injury does impact just the overall efficiency of that Chargers offense.
Yeah.
And, that hurts everybody, including Eckler, especially who's so involved in the passing game and needs to get a touchdown to be ready. You have to get touchdowns to be fantasy relevant as a running back. You just do.
Yep.
All right, well, let's go back to my bad here, which is kind of a fun one. I'm going to go with the entire Bengals offense. Now, here's the deal. There has not been a single Cincinnati Bengal at this point in time that I think you are happy that you drafted them at their ADP.
Joe Mixon.
Joe Burrow.
So, at their ADP, Joe Mixon.
I got Joe Burrow really late, man. It's not like I got him early.
I think the overall ADP though is he had a really great first week and he's not been great the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I do think that if you go and look, Burrow has had a lot of touchdowns, which has definitely been helpful. That Bengals defense has set them up a few times. But all in all, they haven't been able to close games. T. Higgins is on and off the field, which really sucks for them, and is not his fault at all, but it's just kind of an unfortunate truth. And Jamar Chase has looked inefficient this week, dare I say, and really struggled. Had a fumble, and it has not had a big explosive week since week 1. These last 2 weeks have been rough for Bengals fans, and as someone who heavily invested in them in fantasy, it's not been fun, and I think it's worth noting.
Biggest issue is that they can't block anybody. They spent so much money in the offseason signing all these players. I think they drafted
I think that was their number one pick.
Yeah, offensive line as well, and they were supposed to be a big improvement, and it's honestly looks worse.
It does.
It doesn't make any sense.
Joe Burrow can't breathe.
No.
I mean, he has zero breathing room.
Micah
The
Parsons
glasses instantly.
Looked like he was a ghoul on the field and not a human being because he just kept every time he could just go right through him.
Oh,
I mean, it was
like it was
instant.
made of tissue paper.
They
didn't do anything to him.
It was insane. He could just walk through their whole line like a ghost, and it's like when you can do that. Joe Burrow, he started seeing ghosts. He did. It's exactly what happened, and he's looked.
I know we're not. This isn't our trend section, but would you say this is? Do you feel like this is going to continue, or this is going to be?
Don't.
Is this going to be remedied at all, or is it going to change?
I think that. If I can answer this, so then you can give a good, your big answer. I don't think it's gonna be like this because I think Joe Burrow is aware. The fact that he's made comments in press conferences after the game saying yes, I got it. Like the first 2 games were rough, but it's a long season. He's a good leader. He's young, and they like him in the locker room. I think he's going to be able to pull them out of this a little bit. I think they're going to rally, and I wouldn't worry too much. They might not be last year, but
I think they've got. I think you're going to see, in my opinion, another 6-7 weeks of roughness before this gets better. And the reason why, my thought process here is that when you rebuild an offensive line, everybody thinks about it as what you see on paper, who got the big contracts, were they a first-round pick, and all that stuff is great. But at the end of the day, what we've seen from the Patriots, the Packers, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's about that line playing as a unit. If those guys come together and can play well, so when you're mixing and matching pieces, yes, they might be better individual players. But until they can figure out, he likes to pass the guy here. Oh, we do this on this stunt, and I mean, it's just there's a lot to it, and you have to really, really be coordinated and as a team, as an offensive line. I don't think they're there. I think they're getting beat on stunts all the time, and they have to figure that out. And it's going to take good coaching, and it's going to take some figuring by those guys on the front line too, and by Joe Burrow, how they want to do that. So. But I think there's growing pains to come. I don't think this is done. I think this will go on for longer than you would think, and then I think by the end of the season they will have it fixed. But
it might be too little, too late.
But it might be too little, too late for your fantasy season and for the Cincinnati Bengals as a team, who had a great run last year, and it's a team that I'm kind of rooting for as well. So
it's hard not to like their players. Their team is pretty.
Super Bowl hangover.
Yeah.
So.
Time for ugly.
The ugly.
I like the ugly part.
Plug
That's
up
the
your
best
noses.
part.
What's the ugly going on?
So, I will go first with the player because,
Yeah.
again, more to talk about with your kind of stuff. My ugly is Justin Jefferson, and it kind of extends a little deeper than just 1 week. It also extends to last week. I don't think that this is time to worry. I wanted to use my time to say, like, it may have been ugly for the last 2 weeks, but I don't think that everybody should trip about Justin Jefferson. I think he's going to bounce right back. It's not lost on me that they had, what was the guy from Detroit?
Okuda.
Yep.
They double covered him essentially on every play that he was on the field. It was obvious from the fact that Adam Thielen just balled out. I don't think it's time to worry about Justin Jefferson. I think we can give him a little bit more time to return to that level that we expect from him. They're playing the Saints next week. I think Michael Crabtree is still suspended, if I'm not mistaken.
Marshawn Lattimore?
Marshawn Lattimore.
No, Lattimore will be back
Never mind.
next week. So
I still think that Justin Jefferson is going to be fine against New Orleans. It seems like every team that's played them so far it's been a shootout. So I wouldn't worry too much.
No, I think I completely agree. I think
it's an ugly week.
the ugly week. I think
Ugly
people
2
are
weeks.
really mad.
Yeah.
Wide receivers are inconsistent by nature too, and so
It
you'll have those weeks.
Yeah.
But he's the most inconsistent, or he's the most consistent wide receiver that you probably get besides Cooper Kupp, I would say. So
I would agree.
I would completely agree with what you're saying there.
I'm so excited for both of yours. I'm just so excited.
Mine
It's such
is
a great one.
Arizona offense. Just in general,
Yeah.
watching it burns my eyes. I mean, it's
Yeah.
hard to watch. They've had really slow starts. They can't run the ball at all. I don't know. James Conner owners are just crying in their sleep that he's not getting anything done. They're running into walls. Kyler Murray's just looked not good. They don't have a lot of weapons right now. I know DeAndre's out, Rondé Moore's out. Greg Dortch has looked good, but he's not that top tier talent.
No.
He's a good fill-in.
He fills it.
And Kyler Murray just looks indecisive. He looks like he is just struggling out there. And he's seen this because they've had to come back constantly at these second halves, and they've been able to either squeak by or get close. But it concerns me for the overall long-term fantasy for Kyler Murray. I mean, this week for some reason he didn't have any rushes, which when you draft Kyler Murray, you draft him to
Well,
be able
he-
to
He rushed for like 300 yards
I mean, he's
behind the line of
crazy
scrimmage
fast.
the previous week.
crazy fast, and not utilizing that is not only is a concern for fantasy, but it's you're not utilizing one of your best weapons on the ground, especially when you don't have the talent around him. So I just think it looked ugly. I just want to put it in there because it looked ugly.
It did, and Dakota's got a good point. He said he can still scramble. We saw him do it in the Oakland game, or the Las Vegas Raiders game.
But he's
do
probably
that.
burned out, man.
But I mean, it was weird. It was weird not to see him run at all. Now, also the Rams do have a very different defensive line that I think did a good job of containing him a bit as well.
But he just
They
has
definitely
not
kept him in the pocket
And
or tried
that's
to keep him
one
in
thing.
there.
He just, as far as watching him play, he's not looked good.
No, he's not.
The
Well,
first
so
3
not-
weeks. This is not a 1 week thing. To me,
Yes.
this is a continuation of him just
My-
not looking great.
My question is
Absolutely.
this then is do you think that it's just the fact that the offense just isn't meshing, or is it the coach? Because I know a lot of people have had some grumbles and complaints about Cliff Kingsbury. What do you think?
I think it's. I really think it's a Cliff thing too. And
Interesting.
it was funny. DeAndre Hopkins, they had a route tree for him last year, and his route tree was like the fantasy footballers, which we watched. Shout out to them. They called it a bush because typically you see like goes or fades or whatever. It was like just in this little section of like middle range where DeAndre can take the dot off the defense. You should have that. That's a coaching thing. That's not.
Yes.
That's the plays you're calling. And it seemed like the same thing was happening to Hollywood Brown, where he was not using his speed and being able to get these long passes. They're all intermediate, short, all this stuff where you're not utilizing
Cliff
some of their
Kingsbury's
talent.
keeping them constrained.
Yeah.
keeping them
Well,
on
the
leash.
other thing too is that
Interesting.
the air raid system is really designed to attack single high safety defenses, deep on a lot of things. And the NFL, now that Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes have been doing the air raid a bit, and the Bills have associated some concepts into their offense, they've seen the best teams in the NFL every year run this type of offense. and they're getting more and more comfortable with how to beat it.
Mhm.
And it looks like Cliff can't grow and adapt against that right now.
To me, he's just not look great.
No, it's
Well, he said himself in the press conference after the game. He said somebody asked him, they were like, "What do you think the problem is?" He said, "We got to figure it out." That means that he doesn't know what the issue is with the offense. He doesn't know if it's it might be a control issue. You see it with younger coaches, especially in their first few years, if they're not necessarily panning out, is that they're not using these teams to their potential. Think about like Jeff Fisher. Jeff Fisher had he's not a young coach, but he was a newer coach for the Rams. He left. The roster remained virtually unchanged. Sean McVay came in, and all of a sudden, this massive boom.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And coaching definitely is a huge part of this, and also, they struggled at the second half of last season very badly, which tells you that it wasn't something that they changed in the offseason that did this. It was something that defenses figured out about their system, and they've yet to be able to adapt and fix that, and that's a big issue, because if defenses know what you're going to do or know that they can run certain types of coverages and you can't do anything against it, like you have to find a way to play those tendencies against them and win. Otherwise, you end up with this. No matter how good your players are, you will end up with what we're seeing. I feel like in Arizona at the moment.
You're also playing. Their division is a very defense-heavy division. You got the Rams, the Seahawks, and you have the 49ers, and all three of those defenses capitalize on whatever mistakes that they make. So. I mean, that definitely doesn't help.
And then, as far as the ugly goes here, I'm going to go with the New England Patriots offense.
I love it.
And the reason being is, and they actually didn't even have the worst week, this week. But just, it's been a trend. Mac Jones now looking like he's going to be out. So, I mean, it has gone. It is gone from already bad. To me, this is about as ugly gets. That's why I had to put them here. I mean, they drafted Tyquan Thornton in the second round. He hasn't played a snap. Devontae Parker, despite having a big week, this week has been overall underwhelming.
Very underwhelming.
Jacoby Myers was kind of expected to come in and play that Julian Edelman type role, and while he's been decent, he's not been anywhere near that type of player. No, and then they revamped their whole offense this offseason. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson is about the only player on the entire roster that I'm interested in a fantasy capacity at the moment.
I agree with you.
Even with Parker's big week, that
People
happens
panic
from time
on
to time.
Yeah.
It was kind of boring the week before. Was it?
No, it was Jacoby Myers.
No. Well, who was it the week before?
Where did Bourne get? I think he did have a big play, but I think it was on one big catch. Am I wrong about that? Let's take a look.
No, it doesn't really look like he had too great of a game. He only got 5 points this week and 3 points last week.
Okay.
Who am I thinking of? Not Kendrick Bourne. Nelson Aguilar had a huge week.
That's right.
Aguilar,
He had a
Yeah.
huge week last week. I got the name wrong, but he had a huge week
you're
before.
right.
And then
That's
Jacoby's been consistent. So if you are going to take anybody, involve anybody in PPR, I would take Jacoby when he comes back.
And that Aguilar week, I mean, he had 6 catches for 110 yards and a touchdown, but he had a 50-yard touchdown in there. So once again,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I completely agree. And if the quarterback's going to change, Mac Jones is good enough at least to get them the ball. We'll see if is it Brian Hoyer? I think is the backup there.
Yeah.
We'll see how he does.
It looks like the Patriots offense is like slapped together. Like it looks like a house that they built last minute, and they have mismatching parts, and they just are like, we'll figure it out when we get there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which is completely the opposite of what you would expect from Bill Belichick. But
okay, briefly here, let's talk about some drop recommendations real quick before we get into our trends here, guys.
Okay.
So earlier in the drop recommendations, I do see you put Darnell Mooney.
you want to do what we did last week and just run through and say drop or
Sure. Yeah.
keep?
Yeah.
Yeah. Darnell Mooney.
Drop.
Yeah, this last week, I don't know, do this real quick, but this last week was his last chance for me, and the fact that he did nothing and he didn't.
Me too.
Justin Fields did nothing.
Me too.
You gotta get rid of him.
I was really high on him this year, especially because his numbers were identical to Terry McLaurin. I thought, hey, I can get him. Just 7 rounds later.
Justin Fields looked bad.
No, agreed.
Go ahead.
Let's stay in the veins.
Mooney or Zay Jones?
Zay Jones.
Zay Jones.
Mooney or George Pickens?
George Pickens.
Ooh, I might. Yeah, I'll stick with Mooney actually with that one.
Yeah.
Mooney or Romeo Dubs?
Romeo Dubs.
Romeo
for
Dubs.
sure.
Mooney or Michael Gallup?
Is Michael Gallup going to play next week?
That's a great question.
I go Mooney.
I'd go Mooney if Michael Gallup doesn't come back.
Yep.
Mooney or Greg Dortch?
Greg Dortch.
Great Dortch, yeah.
Consistent.
Jeez.
I think that about sums it up. I think that tells you what you need to know.
Yeah.
Robbie Anderson, coming off a back-to-back.
Baker Mayfield.
bad
All you
weeks.
need to say is Baker Mayfield looks awful. He destroyed DJ Moore, and he's going to destroy Robbie Anderson too.
He's single-handedly trying to burn down the Panthers.
Destroying everything. So
Once again, though, I do think there's some system issues there. Obviously, with
you can't make excuses everywhere he goes. He's terrible.
he had one good season. It's only Carson Wentz, I guess.
Yeah.
So Baker Mayfield is the new Carson Wentz. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Except Carson Wentz will deliver from time to time.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield has yet to do that.
So Robbie Anderson or George Pickens?
George Pickens.
I think for me, nobody else.
Everybody else.
Everyone on the
I'll
list,
take-
you're just saying
yeah.
just drop Robbie Anderson.
Yeah,
even if
I
it's
would
for no
agree.
one.
Too.
I would agree.
All right, Cole Kmet.
He should be already off.
I would say get rid of him. You were high on him this year. I was high on him this year. He just didn't turn into anything.
Well, the offense is so bad. Justin Fields
Yeah.
is literally one of the worst rated quarterbacks right now in the league.
Yep. Kadarius Toney.
Drop.
Now hold on here
Yeah,
because
yeah.
Sterling Shepard did just get hurt
I want to see more news.
on a non-contact injury, which did not look good.
He's hurt too. Tony's currently hurt. He missed this game actually with a hamstring injury, and he's hurt in the preseason. At this point, until I see that he's actually going to play and get snaps, I'm dropping him.
Yeah, I have no.
For everyone on our pickup list this week,
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
Rex Burkhead.
drop.
I feel like if you have Rex Burkhead, just go pick up J.D. McKissick, and you get the same value with a little more upside.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's a
Damian
good
Pierce
comparison.
has looked really good.
Then they look like they want to use them. So
Isaiah Pacheco.
It's a three-headed monster, and he's
yeah,
the third
and
running
he's
back.
not getting.
And he
he's
is-
not
He's
getting any
the
time.
third running back right now.
Yep, lots of hype. Heck of an athlete. Will be someone to watch for future. In Dynasty, definitely don't drop
There's
him, in my
Dynasty. I
opinion.
hold on to him. Yeah.
But yes, I do agree. It's going to be a rough rest of the season from the looks of it. Let's get into our trends here.
This is a fun one.
Yes,
This is a good one.
let's kick it off with Eli, if you don't mind. Let's talk a little bit about Elijah Moore.
Absolutely. So I just wanted to talk about Elijah Moore. He's been very disappointing so far in fantasy. Garrett Wilson's getting all the hype currently, which is to be warranted. He's looked amazing. He had his breakout week. Garrett Wilson did last week. He got kind of hurt this week actually.
Yep.
But the trends right now, I'd say that Elijah Moore is. I think I have him there. He's wide receiver 56 right now by rating, which is absolutely terrible. I see a lot of people actually saying that they want to drop him. I actually seen in one of my leagues somebody did drop him. I actually picked him up right away. The thing I want to point out for kind of context with this and what I'm going to talk about trends is this trend going to continue? Is Elijah Moore not going to pay off for fantasy drafters? I think he is going to pay off. The underlying metrics behind Elijah Moore are still there. He's still a great wide receiver. He's still getting open. He's still on the field over 95% of the time. He's still getting targets. He has 7 targets the first week, 5 the second. He got 10 this last week. It's there. He actually was just missed a touchdown this last week. He was just out of bounds for it. So there's a lot of things behind it that he's going to turn it around, and he's too talented not to. So I understand Garrett Wilson's getting all the hype and everything like that, and people want to get rid of Elijah Moore. Hang in there. It's just like the David Njoku. If all the other metrics are there, it's going to hit, and you want to keep him to have him for the future. So
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Well, it's worth noting as well that when Zach Wilson comes back, he has some rapport with Elijah Moore as well, which he does not have with Garrett Wilson at the moment. They're not the ones that are connecting a lot.
Somebody said that too, is that Joe Flacco, because he's backup quarterback, probably had a little bit more connection with Garrett Wilson because usually the backup quarterbacks have more connection with the backup wide receivers or the lower wide receivers usually. So
Absolutely, and Garrett Wilson was in that in all preseason.
And
Sometimes they make the
even
rookies
with
their
that,
head
he's still
coaches.
getting 10 targets, and actually, I looked it up. He has one of the most air yards in the league, so he's getting targeted downfield with high value targets.
Yeah.
If he hits a couple of those, he's gonna have a blow up week.
But will Joe Flacco hit a couple of those?
That's
Is
a
the
great
question.
point.
Yeah.
And will Zach Wilson when he comes back? But I will say this is what we found out. I think this year more than anything is that if you have great wide receivers, which I do think Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore is a great 1-2 punch for the Jets. You can make quarterbacks look a lot better than people think, and so I think that for sure Elijah Moore will trend up and definitely someone to watch.
We talked a lot about buying the quarterback when you buy the wide receiver, and really what it's looking like is that some of these wide receivers can pull these guys out of punches.
Yeah, it goes the other way too, right?
Yeah.
Is that sometimes when you're buying the quarterback, you're buying the wide receivers as well, and it's like if they're just wide open all the time,
Somebody's gonna hit him eventually.
eventually you're going to get some yards. And Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson both very fast. I mean, these are guys that can take a screen to the house on any given play. So cool. I'm going to do mine back to back quick if that's all right.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of related here. I've got James Cook and Kenneth Walker here. It's just one of my takeaways from last season was really, watch rookies. They're going to struggle at the beginning of the season. Don't panic. That's okay. That's normal. That's natural. I know if you drafted James Cook or Kenneth Walker, you're probably sitting here going like, what did I do? What did I get myself into? I need to get these guys off my roster. I just want to encourage you that they are trending up. Kenneth Walker had that not sports related hernia. And then James Cook had a fumble, was in the doghouse a little bit. But James Cook did get 5 targets last week, which is what you want to start seeing from him. You want to see him get that work in the air.
Yep.
Kenneth Walker definitely got some touches and was on the field for a decent amount of snaps last week. So that's also important to note. So just if you have them, hold on to them. Don't get rid of them so fast. Don't sell them for cheap. Don't drop them.
Where were you like 2 weeks ago when I dropped James Cook?
Yeah. And James Cook, he's pretty low owned, so he might be available in a lot of you guys' leagues. If you have,
I did say keep him.
if
You
yeah,
did? Oh, you
Yeah, I
did.
did say keep him.
Yeah.
if you have a good roster and you don't want to drop anyone, maybe don't go pick up James Cook. But if you do have some space on your roster or someone that was on our drop list, maybe you drafted a Robbie Anderson or a Darnell Mooney, or maybe you hold on to Rex Burkhead. These guys have the potential to have a second half of the season.
Yep.
They can win you your league.
Yep.
They did at the beginning of the season. That is still true now. Nothing has changed other than they have not been on the field as much as you would like to see them early on. That's okay. They will get onto the field as the season progresses. That's what I feel.
Good. So it's great. I think great targets. Keep them if you can find them on the waiver, pick them up. If you don't, keep them.
Do you want to go over your second one, and then I can do mine back?
Yeah, I'll do my second one because I think it does go into kind of what you're talking about anyway. So my second trend here is rookie wide receivers are ascending up into the clouds. People are getting hot. So we kind of talked about some of these already with the waiver wire pickups. We kind of talked a little bit about it with Elijah Moore, but rookie wide receivers, especially in the last 2 weeks, have been really having their breakouts. And this class was talked about being one of the best classes. And you just never know if it's actually going to pan out, what's going to happen with it, but we've seen it. Jahan Dotson has been involved right away. He's wide receiver 2 in Washington right now. He's involved. He's getting targets. He's gotten a couple touchdowns. Yeah, Chris Olave has just broken out a lot this week. I mean, he had 140 yards. Drake London is a wide receiver 2 already, maybe wide receiver 1. Garrett Wilson's looked amazing.
Yep.
Even the ones that are still in the process of breaking out have shown signs that they're getting close. Traylon Burks is getting a higher percentage of snaps. Romeo Dodd just had a great week. Ethan just talked about George Pickens earlier. There are a few exceptions. Sky Moore is still trying to work into it, and there's some the Cowboys wide receiver Jalen Tolbert has not got involved a lot. So not all are hitting, but these people, the ones that are hitting, the top ones, Jake London, Chris, and Garrett, I mean, these are players that can really explode. So it's something to remember for going into next year. I think it goes back to what Ethan was talking about with running backs. Is be patient with these wide receivers, especially when they're rookies, because if they have the talent, they're going to get involved. And now that they're getting involved, you're seeing what kind of ceilings they have, and these trends are going to continue. They're going to continue to get better as in a rookie year, and they're going to be some league-winning wide receivers.
I agree.
Absolutely. All right.
We're ready to shed some
You
tears.
jerk.
Yeah. I gotta talk about it, boys. But I just understand that I talk about this with a heavy heart just as much as you guys do as a former fan. I'm gonna talk about Russell Wilson, and we're not talking about trending up. We're talking about trending down. Russell Wilson, I'm gonna read you the tagline for the most notable thing he did in this week.
Uh-huh.
Russell Wilson leads a game-winning drive in Week 3. What was the score in that game?
11-10.
Like, I don't understand what's going on with Russell Wilson. I don't know if it's the commercials. I don't know if it's the $235 million. I don't know if it's Coach Hackett. I don't know if he just doesn't like Denver. Maybe he's fighting with his wife like Tom Brady is. I don't know, man. But he does not look good. And the thing is there's really no reason for it. He has more wide receiver availability in Denver. He's got the coaching staff on his team. He's got the general manager on his
Great
team.
defense,
Got a
better run
great
game,
defense.
solid offensive line.
He's got better pass receiving back. I mean, like, he has everything that you could hope. He's just got tiny heart syndrome.
You know, I do think, and I did say this before the season started. What I will say is that there was going to be some growing pains.
I know.
You can't take a new quarterback and implement a new offense and have a new head coach all in the same season and go in and expect everything to be smooth. I will say, I was not expecting it to be this bad.
These are some really painful growing pains, man.
This has been ugly. It has. If you would have put it in the ugly section, I wouldn't even have argued it because it's been ugly.
I didn't want to call it ugly. I mean, it's ugly. Let's call it for what it is.
It's ugly. It is.
I figured it would be more interesting to talk about in a trend because everything that he's doing is going downwards. He's getting worse every single game.
This last week he missed some throws that were just it was bizarre. It was bizarre. It was the best way to put it.
He completed 20 out of 33
and I will say
attempts.
that there were also on the flip side, there were a couple drops in some big situations.
Jerry
Judy has a dropping problem.
You should have heard me scream on TV.
Well, and Sutton dropped a couple passes that were big as well. You know, is it? I mean, my problem is when I start to see the wide receivers all dropping the ball, I think maybe it's the quarterback is not putting the ball as much in their hands as he were both not great throws. They weren't.
Jerry Judy was.
I brought this as my trend because I hope that it changes. Because I like Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson's really hard. I mean, you can think he's corny, like everybody says, but at the end of the day, it's hard to not like Russell Wilson. And it's hard to see a dude who's 33 who we really looked at and we're like, man, this dude's about to enter his prime. Even the Seahawks fans were coming and being like, he's going to have a great season. We're rooting for him. And just not do it. It's kind of hard.
Ugly.
No, it has been ugly. And
it's been really ugly.
What I'll say is I still am, obviously I'm a Broncos fan, so take it with a little grain of salt. But I'm still hopeful. I actually think that they will figure some stuff out.
Yep.
And that it will get better as the season progresses. If you notice, they already did fix the getting players on and off the field. They're making decisions quicker now.
You mean basic team coaching?
Hey,
well,
you gotta start with
management. Okay.
I will
the most
say
basic
this.
things that you learn in high school, how to get people in and out of.
You gotta start with the basics, whether you're the head coach or the star quarterback, and
hire somebody. That
Denver's gonna have to simplify things, and they're gonna have to learn to do that. I'd also love to see them going to max protect a lot more. And let Russell scramble around a little bit and just try and win one down the field.
I don't think he wants to scramble as much as he used to, man. I think there's a reason why he was invested in the O-line to fund contention with Pete Carroll. I will say this. I don't want to scare you, but this is a fact.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson always does worse in the second half of the season. He always trends down. He starts off really, really hot. In the first 8 games of the season, he's always on pace for where they're like, man, this is the midseason MVP right here. He's going to be the one. And then as soon as they pull his name out and they say he's a contender for the MVP.
Well, the good news is that they're not pulling his name out and saying he's a contender for an MVP.
So maybe the pressure's off. Maybe that's the difference. I don't
know. Hopefully. Well, also, it can't get much worse.
To tie this back into fantasy, though, will you drop Russell Wilson in one quarterback?
Absolutely. It depends on who it is.
He has been absolutely horrible. The first week he was okay. He had over 300 yards and a touchdown. Last 2 weeks, it's been killing your
Here's the thing, man. I sat through Deshaun Watson. I sat through
sat through Teddy Bridgewater, sat through a lot of bad stuff to wait to possibly get my my comeuppance. I can sit through a little bad Russell Wilson for another week or two to see if something happens. However, if you're going to dangle,
because you have to make a decision. Are you going to start him next week? I mean, this week he had 9 points.
I will start him next week because the Raiders have looked pretty bad against teams
that
that
should be a
haven't been.
high-scoring game.
Should be.
I'll tell you what. I'll start him this next week, and then if he doesn't do well, I'm gonna be hard pressed to start him again.
Well, so here you got to look at the next.
He's been a strong drop candidate for a lot of people. I
gotta
have
look
him in
at
a couple leagues, and I am.
You got to look at the next
tilting
4 games.
my head off.
He's got Las Vegas, Indy, the Chargers, who we know exactly what's going to happen, and then the Jets.
Yeah.
He's got 4 games where he is just they're playing t-ball and they're letting him hit a home run.
They should, yeah.
That's true.
And if he doesn't do it,
he should have had a great game against Houston. He should have had a great game against.
well, Houston's a dark horse, man. Houston's a
you
little
also
scary.
see here that his rushing yards, his floor that he kind of had built in also in Seattle. Is
last
he
year
doesn't do it anymore.
He doesn't do it a lot.
No, and it's been going away. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, 9 rushes for 22 yards for 3 games.
It's the donuts that he had that one
those
season.
are.
Yeah.
I mean,
He ever since
those
he
are
had that.
pocket QB numbers, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure.
Yep.
And it's worth noting that really impacts fantasy value as well.
He also gets sacked a lot. And
Yes.
he's in the amount he had 2 in the first game, 3 in the next, and 4 in this game.
Yeah.
Like, he's not the spring chicken that we had 5 years ago. And I think that's definitely he is doing what you would expect a quarterback to do. And as they get older, begin to play more pocket. But he might not be good at it. He might have to go back to what he knows and try to scramble a little bit more.
Yep.
I hope he does better. That's all I really got to say.
And our last trend here, I think that this is a great one.
Yeah.
But Dakota, tell us all about what you have here.
Man, I got all the good ones today, don't I?
Mm-hmm.
Miami Dolphins. I really like the Miami Dolphins. Right now, I would say that they are one of those. We talked a few weeks ago about like the big fantasy teams. Like who are you going to want the guys?
Yeah.
We did talk about the Miami Dolphins, and
Yes.
this year, Tua has just been on a mission to prove everybody wrong. Everybody's starting to think Tyreek Hill's a little less crazy now that he says that Tua is the most accurate quarterback that he's ever had.
I mean,
thrown
you're still
at.
cause to compare Tua to Mahomes, in my opinion, but Tua has looked very
He's
good.
getting slightly less crazy. I didn't say
Yes.
he wasn't crazy.
Yes.
I said
Yeah.
slightly less
No,
crazy.
good point.
We got, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Tua, even Mike Gesicki and Chase Edmonds are all playing.
I mean, Hill and
Relatively
Waddle
well.
are almost to me a modern day Randy Moss, Chris Carter combo at the moment, and that's dangerous. And it just no matter who's the quarterback, like if you have 2 wide receivers that can take anything to the house at any time,
And the thing is,
and are just elite,
they
it's
fill
scary.
different roles, and so you're not even when they're on the field at the same time. If I'm as a Waddle owner or a Hill owner, I'm not worried about him undercutting me for points because Waddle's going to get those consistent yards. He's just going to keep hammering, adding on the yards, and Tyreek Hill is the break dude.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that Miami's going to continue to trend up.
So
Although it's hard to go up from here, I guess, but still.
I think
let's quantify that a little bit. So do you feel like Hill and Waddle, wide receiver 1 for the rest of the year, both of them?
No. I would say both top 12, absolutely.
Rest of the season?
Oh yeah, I would even say that it's a possibility for top 10 just because how they've been
What
playing
about,
so far.
so if they're top 12, what about Tua? What's your faith in Tua going forward? Because I think this last week had that monster, like 40-point week before. This week he came back down there. I think he had a 16 or 17 point
It wasn't
game.
too good. I think it was worse than
Yeah,
that.
no, it was not great. But you're also playing the Buffalo Bills,
Sure.
who is possibly the best defense in football.
They were missing like 3 of their top defensive players though.
He had an 11-point game.
Oh,
this
that's
week.
fair.
Yeah,
But-
see, that's a big crash down to earth. So,
But again, it's the Buffalo Bills. This is a Super Bowl contender team.
I
what
did
would you
this in
say,
my
too?
head right
So-
off
so-
the game because it's the Bills.
we want to give him, so for rest of the season, because he had a 16-point game, and he had a 53-point game, and a 13, depending on scoring.
I think he's going to trend up, man.
You think he's going to be in the top QB1, or do you think he's going to be kind of
I don't think
top-
that he's going to be QB1.
top 15?
Let me see his schedule.
I don't think he'll be top. I don't think he'll be top QB, but I do
I think he'll be in
it's
the top 15.
top 15 is definitely reasonable.
I think he'll be right on the border between top 15, top 10.
So he's not one that you would be comfortable starting week to week. You'd be more closer to the streaming quarterbacks. You'd be talking top
Depending on how
20,
next week goes.
top 20 to top 15. You're
Yeah, he's
really
I would say, he's probably
Streaming.
probably top 12. I would actually give him probably 11 or 12. Low end QB1.
Okay.
That's right where I'd put him.
I don't know if I would be comfortable streaming him every week until I see more consistency.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is that he's got so many weapons and so much potential around him that once he gets that
It's
consistency,
the duality
we're
of the
good, man.
Dolphins. It really is.
Can
It's
blow
like
up,
so you can't. The truth is that if Eli, you make a really good point. If Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill are top 12 wide receivers, that almost guarantees that Tua is not even a top 12 quarterback, but a top probably 5 quarterback.
I don't think that they're going to trend down. So I think that he's going to continue to trend up.
So and it's going to be interesting is what breaks first. And also Tua's hurt right now, which might kind of not allow us to see.
Yeah.
But
That's
he did
true.
have that concussion problem, which the league is now investigating, which is worth noting.
I think they are. I think I agree. I think the wide receivers, especially, like you're guaranteed Tyreek. I think they're going to be both top 15 at the minimum.
I think at the minimum.
Maybe top 20 at the minimum, but I'd say
They have high
they're
potential
wide
for
receiver
10, man.
1 to high wide receiver 2 at
Yeah.
Yeah.
the most. So
Absolutely.
I completely agree with that.
Cool. All right. So what's one thing you guys are watching for this weekend here?
Oh man, players who are have been limited in the past few weeks to begin to pick up that lead role for me.
Yeah, I'd say during the week, looking at these injuries and just getting more updates on those and
Yeah.
understanding kind of these backups, and then seeing how it turns out. I think it's how they actually play, because we always talk about handcuffs,
Yeah,
but then it comes down to it. We got to see how they come out.
I'm curious to see how some of these like more veteran wide receivers who are injured come back in and
Yeah.
play with these younger dogs. I'm really curious to see how it pans out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think me personally, I'm going to really look at the running backs that are filling in for these all the running backs that are hurt, whether it's Jalen Warren, Khalil Herbert, Alexander Madison, or Jamal Williams. I really just want to make sure that these guys are going to come in and do a great job before maybe putting in some trade offers for them and kind of checking in on the injuries as well, of course. So, and that's something I'm definitely going to be watching, just because I think that, especially with injuries that, like, I've actually kind of been thinking about this throughout the episode, especially with injuries like Dalvin Cook's that have been there before and have a good chance of getting re-hurt. It might be actually while Dalvin Cook is still out or maybe looking to come back, that Alexander Madison might end up being the cheapest that he is going to be throughout the season if Cook comes back early and gets that hurt right again. So it's worth noting. That's something I'm going to watch for. And then I just love watching these rookie wide receivers. I've absolutely loved this class. I thought they're going to make a big difference, and they have so far. So I'm also going to continue to watch kind of the guys that are still have yet to break out, with Treylon Burks, George Pickens, Eli, as you mentioned. I think those are great highlights. So.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Agreed.
sure. Sounds good. Well,
I think that hits everything
I
that we
think
wanted
that's
to do
it.
today.
Yeah, I think we covered everything.
Thank you guys for joining us for the ride.
Yes, absolutely.
A little shorter this week, but
Yeah.
But
we had a great time, along the way. Don't forget to comment and subscribe below.
Yep.
And check us out on Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'll put the Twitter
Yeah.
links in the video as well. See you guys next week.
Sounds good.
See you
Good
guys.
luck.